algae, which are mostly present in aquatic areas, fungus, which we can found on dead and decaying organism, gymnosperms, that is the non-flowering plants which are normally present, if we are going saying about India, which are normally present in the Himalayan region, and the angiosperms, which we can observe in any part of the country, like any part of the world. Angiosperms we can easily observe because they have showy flowers. Uh, the flower size may differ, but the showy flowers are there. So normally, when we say plants, when a common man or a layman say plants, he always refer to the angiosperms, that is a flowering plant. But now we know that plants are not only the angiosperms, but all these algae, fungal, gymnosperm, pteridophytes, all these are included under the plants. Got it? So whenever you will say plants, please be careful that which plant you are talking about. Okay? If you consider the habit, the plants are, again, there are different type of plants. That might be a tree, a huge girth of a trunk, or the bark, which can show the secondary growth. So that comprises a tree. Then the herbs, that means herb, they are mostly on the ground cover. They follow the ground cover and hardly 1 feet or 1.5 tall. Okay. Monsoon is the season when we can observe lot and lot of herbs. Similarly with the shrubs. Shrubs are hardly 5 to 6 feet in height, but the wood is never solid. The secondary growth is absent, so wood is never solid, and that is the difference between the tree and a shrub. Sometimes shrub may attain the height of 8 to 10 feet, but being it is a soft wood, it is classified under a shrub. Creepers are something which run around the ground. So normally this particular plant, you must have observed this on the beaches. We have this plant very commonly found on our all the beaches, and that is the ipomia. So it runs along the sand, and that's why it is a creeper. So whenever the plant will touch the soil, there will be a rooting, and similarly the plant growth will happen. Then comes the climbers that entangled and hold something, and then they climb up. Okay, the climbers will have tendrils to hold the plant or any other object which is nearby to them, and with the help of that with the help of that tendrils, they will grow up and up and up. So those are the climbers. So broadly, we can say plants can be divided into herbs, shrubs, trees, climber, creepers, and palms and the grasses. Both of these are most most of these are monocotyledons, that is a single seed in their cotyledon. So palms are huge, tall, but the trunk is straight, and then the leaves will be there. And the grasses, they will attain again the height of say 5 to 6 feet. Some grasses are just like herbs; they do the ground cover, but the flowering and fruiting will be monocotyledonous. Okay, so these are the broad, you can say, types of the plants. So whenever you are going to observe any plant, we can first check it out whether it is a gymnosperm or angiosperm. Then we can concentrate on the height and the girth of that particular plant, and we can classify it under whether it is a herb, whether it is a shrub, or depend on the flowering, we can say whether it is a grass. So once you are observing a plant, you can filter these things and make sure that you can identify that particular plant. So flora is always different in different seasons. So in the same area, if you are going in summer, something else will be there. If you are going in monsoon, the scenario is completely changed. And in winter also, the flowering and fruiting of the plants are changed. So the same area will look different, and different plant species will perish in different seasons. So if you are going in summer, if the trees are there, then they will be in their flowering condition. Most of the trees, most of the wild trees, I'm talking about wild trees, they flower during the summer season. And the majority time there is a leaf fall. So no leaf, but the flowering conditions are there. So summer is the good season for plants to flower, and that's why a lot of birds they visit that particular tree in that season. No doubt there are some fruits which are available in summer season, like uh, Christ thorn, or commonly known as karmanda. So fruits are also there during the summer season. The flowers are showy and mostly in bright colors, say in the summer season. If you are visiting that particular area in the monsoon, then you will observe that it is dominated by herbs and shrubs. Trees will be there as it is, they will be there, but the ground cover will completely change, and you will observe many herbs, shrubs, and grasses. They have started growing in that area. They will just come out from their from the ground and cover, change the entire ground in green color. So they are mostly annuals, and during the monsoon season they will come out. So you can observe the plants like sesame plant, which is there. This is the sesame flower, which flowers during the monsoon season. And the climbers are also there in the monsoon season. This is the famous shevda bhaji, which we can observe during the early monsoon, the first or second shower. After the first or second shower of the monsoon, this flowering is there, and this is the famous wild vegetable. In winters also, ground cover will be there, but it will start drying up now. So the grasses which were present during the monsoon season, they will flower and start drying up. The flowering season of some plants are in winter, like Alstonia. Right now it is flowering. So winter, we are approaching the winters now, and the Alstonia is flowering. Even the bakul tree, or the Michaelia, the Sonsafa tree, they will start blooming now. So some trees, some plants, they flower in winters. Most of the grasses you will see flowering in winters, and there will be different kind of fruits, mostly these um, Indian date palm fruits. They are there in winters. So in every season, some or other flowering, fruiting, algae, fungus, they are growing, but the uh, flora of that particular area will look different in different seasons. Okay. Now this phenomena is completely uh, just to stop the competition, and just to uh, the biodiversity which is depend on this flora, the animal, the birds, butterflies, which are dependent on this particular flora, and even the flora is depend on that, those pollinator. So for their interaction, these changes happens. Normally it is said that, or you must have observed, or nowadays you are reading a lot about the indigenous flora or the native flora. What is the importance of this native flora? Very first thing, being in that environmental conditions, it provides food and shelters for wild animals. So the bees, butterflies, or the other wild animals like mammals, they know that particular flora, they know those fruit, they know those flower. So that flora can provide food and shelters to them. All these plants, the native plants, They are resistant to the common diseases and pests in that environmental conditions. So it is very easy to grow them in that particular environmental conditions. They also maintain the balance and biodiversity of that area. If particular native plant is there, naturally that particular bird or the butterfly will visit that area. So they balance the biodiversity of that area. These plants, these indigenous plants, they are adapted to the local environment. So normally they require less water than the introduced plants or the exotic species. Normally the exotic species which are introduced in a particular area, they require a lot of water to survive. So if the indigenous plantation is there, it can manage its own water and survive in less water also. The native plants or the indigenous plants, they are being in that environmental condition, attract lot of birds, butterflies, mammals, insects, etc. So that is the importance of the indigenous flora. No doubt exotic plants are also important. The exotic plants are doing the work of giving out oxygen, or taking in the carbon dioxide. But still, if you will have to consider the complete ecology of that area, or you have to think about the biodiversity of that area, then more weightage should be given to the plantation of the indigenous plant for that particular area. Now, if you are going to plant some gymnosperm in an area like in like Maharashtra, then again it will be difficult to grow them. But if you can plant the mango trees or the ficus trees in that particular area, they will easily grow. So one has to study the local environment, the local climatic condition of that area, and then they can decide the think about the indigenous plants from that area, and then they can go for the plantation. So similar things actually happens in Ambivli Biodiversity Park. Now Ambivli is a station which is on central suburb line, and next to Kalyan, that is 70 kilometers away from the city of Mumbai. So in the Ambivali area, there was a 40 acres of forest land, which was just like that. No plantations were there. It was a barren land, kind of a barren land. Only wild species were thriving on that particular land. So this land was taken up by Kalyan Dombivli Municipal Corporation, and they planted around 12,000 sapling of the trees in that area. Most of the species are native, but being a plantation site, some of the exotic species are also planted in that particular area. So majority 70 to 80% plantation is of native species, like pongam oil and alstonia, and the other trees, but some exotic species are also there. So after the plantation is over, uh, still to attract more of the biodiversity, Ladybird Environmental Consultancy thought to prepare to form a biodiversity special plants, to plant such plants which can attract more number of bees or butterflies in that particular area. So they thought of preparing a butterfly garden or a bee garden in that particular area. So for that purpose, apart from the plantation done by KDMC and maintained by KDMC, they planted some other trees which are specifically planted to attract the birds or the butterflies and the local birds in that area. In all this situation, the naturally existing wild flora was already there. Mostly in monsoon, if you visit that particular place, Ambivali Biodiversity Park, one can visit. So mostly if you are visiting the place during the monsoon season, one can found what is known as wild flora. Lot of herbs and shrubs and majority of the grasses, they flower, they bloom during this monsoon season. So the wild flora which was already there is kept as it is, and after that keeping in mind about the wild flora and studying after the wild flora, the plantations and the butterfly garden and the bee garden was planted. Let's see what we can observe in Ambivli Biodiversity Park. So, if you are going to visit Ambivli, herbs, if you are going to observe, then we have one species known as Blumia. In Marathi, it is known as Bhamburda. A very strong, smelly leaves are there, and flowers are yellow in color, and flowering season is November to March. So right now, if you are going to have a walk in Ambivali Biodiversity Park, so these plants will welcome you because lot of Blumia is there on that particular trail path, and you will observe many bees visiting these flowers for the honey. Tridax is the another species which is uh, you will found around the as a ground cover. The leaves are small, but the flowers are showy and they stand up in that particular plant. So a lot of butterflies, particularly the PRO type of butterfly, they visit this flower for the nectar. This is a nectar as well as food plant for the butterflies. So lot of Tridex flowers are right now flowering, and you can observe many butterflies around these flowers. Now some of the plants, some of the herbs which you will found in Ambivali are the monsoon origin. They flower during the monsoon period. So Commelina, the leaves might be there, but the flowering season is over now. Again, a ground trailing plant and spread in the Ambivali Biodiversity Park. So these small blue color flowers, they are during the monsoon season, but afterwards they dried up and again flowers during the next season. Then this is the best ground cover which is native for India, indigenous ground cover, indigenous plant for the ground cover, which is Alice. So one can, if you want to observe this plant, you just have to knee down because this is a very small plant trailing on the ground, and the leaves, which leaves are shiny. The midrib is very showy, shiny of the plant, and that is only the visual identification character for this particular plant. If it is not in flowering conditions, then one can observe the leaves, observe the midrib, it is shiny, and then we can confirm that this is some or other species of the Halicarpus plants. So a beautiful pink color flowers are there. Right now it is in flowering condition. So summer flowering. So ground cover is there, but to observe this particular plant, you really have to search on the grounds because it's a trailing plant, ground cover plant. Then the Cleome, again a monsoon flowering plant. So you will observe some pods right now on this particular species. So during along with the trail path, there are the Cleome plants. So these pods or the शेंगा ज्याला आपण मराठीमध्ये म्हणतो, those pods are there, and the flowering season is already over for this plant. So Cleome viscosa is the plant. The leaves, the vegetative conditions are there throughout the year, but the flowering and fruiting is the monsoon and the winters. Uh, Another small herbs which are present is the Phyllanthus neruri, or in Marathi they are known as Bhui Avla. Bhui means land. Avla is a plant which I think everybody know, Indian gooseberry tree. So it is from the same family of the Indian gooseberries, and even the flowering you will observe over here, a small microscopic flowers are there, and they will turn into small amla like fruits. So avla near the land, and that's why the Marathi name is Bhui Avla. The plant right now also you can observe in flowering and fruiting conditions. But again, it is a very small plant, so one has to knee down and observe this particular flora. The Ringia repens is the species which is present somewhat inner part of this trail path. This particular species, it's not much common on the trail path. You have to move inside and look for this particular species. The flowers are purple, small flowers, very small flowers. The height of the tree is hardly a feet. So within the grass patch, you nearly have to search for these flowers. And these flowers are medicinally important. One plant which you can observe on the rocky patches of the Ambivli Biodiversity Park is the Lepidogapis. This particular plant grows normally on the rocky patch, the basalt rock patch. And in Ambivli also there is a good rocky patch is there, good rock is there. And within that patch, you will observe the Lepidogapis flowers. Even in this particular plant, the flowering conditions are where the flower it blooms just near the ground. So showy flowers will be there, a bunch of flower directly you will see on the rock, and then you will able to observe the leaves. So first the flower will attract you. You will observe the just a bunch of a flower, and when you will search for it, then you will able to observe the leaves and the roots underground. So Lepidogapis is one of the herb which actually flowers during the monsoon season. So right now it is difficult to observe if you are walking in this particular month. So these are the herbs. Then let's move to the shrubs. The majority of these shrubs are normally of a height of 5 feet or 6 feet. So their flowers are almost on our eye level. So from 2.5 feet to 6 feet is the normal height range of for any shrub. So the flowers are mostly showy and we can easily observe it. So shrubs are mostly observed during the trail path. So if you are walking along the trail path, you will observe this small Sida plant, that is Bala in Marathi, and this is a medicinally important plant in that area. And all these herbs, all these shrubs are indigenous. That is they belong to the native flora for that particular area. This Ambivali region mostly fall in a uh, dry deciduous type of a forest. So broadly, all the forests are classified, and this particular area, because of its temperature, rainfall conditions, and weather conditions, it is a kind of a dry deciduous forest. So these species are native for that dry deciduous forest. So Sida is there. Then comes the wild bhendi, which is now flowering everywhere. You will find this particular plant along the railway paths also, and in open grounds or the westlands. So in this area, this wild bhendi is most common. Very showy, beautiful yellow color flower with a patch of brown color in the center. This is a hibiscus, belong to the hibiscus family. So easily you can observe this flower, and it will look similar to our hibiscus plant. Then one of the monsoon plant which is there is the celosia, or commonly known as coxcomb. It is a again one of the wild vegetable. The young leaf of this plant are consumed as a wild vegetable. So flowering is over now. I think you have seen these flowers during the toran, which we normally use during the Dasahara festival, uh, which we hang on the doors. So that toran contains all these flowers, because these they are flowering. The flowering season of these flowers is during the Dashehra time. So these flowers are plucked and they are garmented in that toran. सो दॅट इज अ सिलोशिया ऑर द कॉक्सकोम, किंवा मराठीमध्ये याला कुरडू असं म्हटलं जातं. स्टील फ्लॉवरिंग्स आर देअर, सम फ्लॉवरिंग्स आर देअर. इफ यू आर लकी यू विल एबल टू ऑब्झर्व इट. देन द वर्नोनिया इज अ श्रब. मराठीमध्ये याला सहदेवी असं म्हटलं जातं. अँड द फ्लॉवर्स आर पर्पल इन कलर. The normally it is 3 feet in height, or 2.5 feet rather in height, and along the trail path also you will able to observe this Sahadevi plant. So medically important, and again it hold the soil, and that's why all these plants, herbs mostly, they help to hold the soil, and that's why during the monsoon season majority of the herbs and grasses they are there, so that the runoff of the soil can be checked down. Then the cassia, which is now in fruiting condition. So cassia tora kiva senna is the another name for this. Wild senna is the another name for this particular plant. Flowering is over, but you will able to observe such pods, such dried pods along the trail path, and these pods, inside these pods seeds are there, and these seeds, they will taste like a coffee. So cassia is economically important plant. The seeds are collected, but they are adulterated in coffee. For that reason, they are collected. So this is one of the economically important plant. Then the Leah species, there are two different Leah species in Ambivli Biodiversity Park. All these herbs and shrubs, they are growing wildly in that particular area. These are not the planted varieties. The planted varieties are different, which are there in butterfly garden or along the hedge. They are different. So Leah is again one of the wild plant which is present in that particular area. These flowers also attract lot of butterflies, and the fruits are edible. They are fruits which we can observe over here. They are edible. So Leah plants, there are I think 20 to 25 Leah plants one can observe inside the Ambivali biodiversity. They are not along the path. They are not along the trail path, but one can move inside and observe them. So some of the climbers which are present in that area, the most showy, most growing, fully bloom climber right now is the Getonia, or the crepe paper flower climber. These flowers are very mostly yellowish white in color, and the petals are papery. If you touch them, you will feel like a paper, and they are very light in weight, and that's why the name is crepe paper flower climber. The it blooms very profusely, and one can observe the bloom everywhere. So Getonia is the most common climber in any deciduous type of a forest. So in Ambivali also it is growing on the larger trees, and climber is spread almost in every part of the biodiversity park. Some of the smaller climber, one of the smaller climber, or you can say the climber which is never attain the height of the never runs along the heighted trees, is the cocculus. It will mostly try to climb on the herbs or shrubs in that area, hardly grows on the trees, but the leaf shape is unique. It is like a heart shape, but uh, the tip of the leaf is somewhat semicircular or concave. So one can easily observe this climber, which is growing on the herbs and shrubs in that area. So Cocculus hirsitus is right now in vegetative condition, and again it is one of the important medicinal plants for that area. Of course, this area is protected, I mean, under the observation of the Kalyan Dombivli Municipal Corporation. So nothing is collected from that area. It is ecologically important, declared as an ecologically important area, and completely left for the birds, butterflies for the in that area. So nothing economically important plant or any other plant, nothing is collected, nothing is harvested from this park. One of the climber which you can observe in any area is the Ipomia. It grows very fast, and covers trees or the whatever comes in their way. So is there any light pole or something like that, or any wall, whatever is there, they can easily climb on them, and they just grow so profusely, so fast, that they cover the entire thing. The flowering is almost throughout the year. So Ipomea flowering you can observe any time. So right now also Ipomea is flowering in that area. One of the less known climber from the wild area is a Cisampalus pereira. So Cisampalus has a heart-shaped leaf again. So, but this is not much more popular climber. So one has to go and search for it. It is hardly in one or two places in the biodiversity park also. Grasses, best season to observe grasses is October and till mid-November. So almost all the grasses are in flowering condition right now. So one can go and visit and observe the flowers and fruiting condition of the grasses in any area. So the species which were observed, the grass species particularly, which were observed in the biodiversity park, were one of the species is Aplunda, that is flowers are small in size, and the leaves are much bigger. The flowers are actually hide along the leaves. You really need to search them, where are the flowers, and then we can click them. Some of these photographs are not from the Ambivli biodiversity, but particularly grasses, because it is very difficult to photograph the grasses, and again a very hard thing uh, to click the flower of that particular grass. So some of the photographs I have borrowed from my friends actually. So then the finger grass or the digitaria. So the bloom is like our fingers. This somewhat look like our fingers. That's why the common English name is finger grass. So digitaria species is also present in park. Then the panicum species is there along the trail path. Also, you will observe them. Once you enter in the from the gate, the panicum species, the many along the many grass patches, Panicum is the most flowering patch. Panicum has the most flowering patch in the park area. So, largest number of Panicum species are present in this particular area. Then the Setaria. Setaria is a very common grass you will find in that particular area. Along the rock patches, mostly the Setaria flowers. So there is a huge rock patch in that park. So along that, in that particular, near that particular rock patch, the Setaria flowerings is there. Some of the trees which are there are the Carissa किंवा करवंद ज्याला आपण म्हणतो. We can easily identify karvan because of these thorns, and that's why the common English name of this particular tree is Christ thorns. So right now it will be in a vegetative condition, and not during the trail path, but along the side, along the wall, the Carissa plantation, Carissa trees are there. So they form a natural fence. Being thorny in nature, normally Carissa are planted along the uh, 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 near near the fence. So that is a they act as a natural fence for that particular area. Then the red silk cotton trees are there, flowers during the end of January or till February, and again lot of birds are attracted to this flower because the honey is very sweet, and lot of honey is present in this in those flowers. So a lot of birds, butterflies, they visit this particular flower, and the flowering season is from mid January to mid February. So showy red color flower, they are there in summer season, and at the same time the tree is in leafless conditions. So those red silk cotton trees are also there. Then the ziziphus or the boar or Indian jujube trees are there. Uh, two to three varieties of this particular Mauritiana species is again on the slopes of this park area. So this Ziziphus is again one of the thorny plant. Thorns are present on this particular plant. So they are growing on the slopes of this park. Uh, Another species which is growing in park area, since there was no plantation over there for last many years, so the Ficus hispida species started growing in that area. As the name suggests, Ficus hispida is the leaves are hispid or rough in nature. Ficus are the keystone species for any forest or any area because they attract lot of biodiversity. And this particular ficus or the Ficus hispida species, it normally the first or second growing species in any unwanted area or any unclean area or the area where no plantations or no trees are there. So castor and Ficus hispida are the some of the species which you can observe in a abandoned land. So this Ficus hispida started growing in that land. But once the plantation started and the butterfly garden work started, now the species is restricted to the corners of that uh, park. To increase the biodiversity, apart from the plantation done by KDMC, lot of trees they are planted by KDMC, but most of the tree species are planted in a monoculture way. That means if a Indian bullet wood or a buckweed tree is planted, then all the hundreds trees are planted in the same area. Similarly, they have planted almost 20 different species, but like a monoculture. So those species they are planted in a rows. So it become a monoculture. So to increase the biodiversity in that area, butterfly garden, bee garden, and the bat garden is prepared, is planted. Now, the theme for these gardens is to attract those particular species. So, if you are creating any butterfly garden, that means the plants which are growing there will surely attract some or other species of the butterflies. The butterflies they require two different type of plants. Some are the food plants where the female butterfly will lay egg and caterpillar will feed on those leaves, and the nectar plants on which many butterflies can visit, suck the nectar and go. So both these type of plants are planted in a particular area, in a particular design, so that when they will grow, they will attract lot of butterflies. So already butterflies have started visiting this butterfly garden. The species which are locally present over there, they have started visiting these plants and started increasing. The count is now increasing. So butterfly garden is a real success in Ambivli Biodiversity Park. So the species like Musenda or the Axora, mini Axora, then some of the species like Tridax, which is already there in wild. So food plant like this and the nectar plants like Tachycarpeta or the Jamaican blue, which is commonly known as Jamaican blue. So to increase the number of butterfly in that area, this type of plantation are done. Okay, so you can observe the butterflies, they have already started visiting the area. This particular plant is a Jamaican blue spike or the Stachycarpeta, which is a nectar plant for butterflies, and it attracts lot of species of butterflies. So along the trail path, lot of these species are planted so that it will look green. Also, they will attract lot of bees and butterfly in that area. So the success of the butterfly park is already achieved, and you will observe many butterfly species in that area. These signboards help us to know more about butterfly and which butterfly are present in that area, also the which on which plant they grow, on which are the nectar plant for them, which are the food plant for them. So to help us to know more about the butterflies, such signages are already there. So if you are visiting this area, do read the signboards so that you can observe more in that area. Similarly, bee garden and a bat garden is also there. Now these two are some of some of the new thematic gardens. Butterfly garden nowadays we can observe in many places. In schools also, in colleges, they have started making the butterfly gardens. But the bee garden and the bat garden is a new are the new themes for any particular region. So bat garden, again, the species, the tree species which we are planting in that particular region are the one which are pollinated by the bats. So such plant species are planted in that area and bat garden is prepared. Bee gardens, it again the species which are majorly flowers during the summer and which have a major amount of honey in the flower. They are planted. Honeybee also require water, and in fact, the whole bee garden, the bat garden, near that a small pond is created, filled of water. So the wild fauna which is present over there can use this water, and also one can increase the variety of the species which are present, the species of the amphibians which are present in that area with the help of this small pond which is created in that area. So the bat garden and the bee gardens, they are the smaller gardens compared to the butterfly garden, but the species which are present are most important. The trees which are present in that area, they are important because they can attract lot of bees and bats in that area. So the area where no trees were there, no plants were there, only the wild flora was there. And after that, on that particular land, when you can create plantations, when we can do the plantations, and we can create the bat garden or the butterfly garden, it is going to be increase the biodiversity of that particular region. Next to Ambivli Biodiversity Park, actually there is a barren land, there are warehouses, there is no greenery at all nearby the biodiversity park. So it can be a great site to observe lot of biodiversity in this Ambivali Biodiversity Park. Or ecologically also, it is very important because after within that particular area, this small green patch is thriving. So it is ecologically also very important to balance the biodiversity and to control the pollution in that area, because plants always do their work. They will always give out oxygen. They will always, take in the carbon dioxide. So they are already doing that work. So that particular green patch which is there, and so this that is the importance of that patch for the ecologically, to help the biodiversity also, and for humankind to check the pollution also. So if you are visiting this particular area, the trail path is, they have already created the trail path, walking tracks. So one can observe this bat garden, butterfly garden at the end of these plantations. So first the plantations are there, and then the butterfly garden, bee garden, astral garden is also there. So they are there. So while observing, while walking along the trail path, one has to observe the wild flora, simultaneous the plantation, and then the butterfly garden and the bee garden, and the astral garden is there. So after observing all this, so it took almost 3 to 4 hours for a person to know all the plants, to observe all the plants in that particular area. So in a small patch of 40 acres, almost 300 plus species of plants one can observe. They are either wild or planted. They are either native or exotic. But those who are the plant lovers, if they are going to visit this Ambivli Biodiversity Park, they can surely spend the time of 4 to 5 hours and observe each and every plant over there, whether it's a herb, shrub, tree, whatever, or native or the exotic. But at least variety of plants you will able to observe in this area. It is it is important to observe the biodiversity, important to study the biodiversity, but at the same time, it is important to take action for that. So when you are going to observe the Ambivali Biodiversity Park, and if you are a plant lover, do think to plant those varieties in your own gardens also, or in your own area also. So plants we can plant in any part of the world. So if it is a small window grill, you can plant in a pots and you can make your own gardens. If not, please collect seeds, plant them. When the plants are growing, please go and transfer them in any open area or in your society, so that again the plantations will be there. Don't wait for anybody to come and plant in your area. You only start yourself to do something for the plantations. So this will you will guide others. You can able to guide others for the plantation. So if you have a small area, don't worry. Window grill can easily accommodate 5 to 6 pots, and you will easily plant at least 5 to 6 different varieties of plants into that. And those varieties will again help some of the butterfly or some of the birds to survive. And if you are doing the seed collection, if you are planting it, then again those wild flora will attract lot of again other wild species also. And again the area will be greener. Those important things are already there. The area will be greener. The oxygen level will be very high. The pollution, heavy metal pollution also in check. So this forest help, the green plants, they help in other things that is also there. If not, at least you start growing your own vegetable. That will at least, this is of your, what you can say, use for your only, for your personal use only, you can plant the vegetables, but at least start growing some of the vegetables in your area. So because these vegetables are also plants, so ecologically also they are very important. So the fruit, the particular vegetable will be of your benefit. Simultaneously ecologically they are important, so you will help the area to support the biodiversity. So at least start growing your own vegetables. So don't just go and observe the plants in biodiversity park or in any other area. If you are a real plant lover, start planting them also. That is the most important thing. The time for the thoughts and the thinking process is already over now. If you really want to change the world to a greener place, one has to take action now. And one we can take small actions, like we have, if you have a window grill, you can go and at least have few pots where you can plant easily growing plants like tulsi or the aloe vera. So these are also important for the biodiversity. You will observe some or other bee or some or other butterfly is coming and visiting that particular plant, or some or other caterpillar is there on the your small bryophyllum plant or the panfuti plant. So at least you will able to uh, survive. You will observe that at least because of your that small plant, that particular species is surviving in that area. So please go and plant in your own areas. So if you have any question related to this, we can ask. I hope everyone was listening.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the
Yes,
session. If you have any questions, please ask.
Hello, ma'am. This is Somendra.
Hi.
It's nice hearing you again. I think we meet in the Taloja Hill when you have described on field about the different plants and species, even trips. It
Yes.
was a wonderful
Yes.
trip. So this is just a refreshing course for me. Thank
Actually,
you so
walking
much.
in those areas is much more, beautiful.
Yeah, ma'am. Actually, we went in the monsoon season, so there was everywhere. It's a
Yes.
full of blooms that time. Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing once again. As for me, it's a refreshing because few of the things, if I don't go into that time, so and as you have told, in the same area, you will find a different kinds of species in the across the
Yes.
seasons and in the different forms
Yes.
also. So yeah, actually, I have
Yes.
just one small question regarding the uh, watering of the plants because the plants and trees in the area because this is a very challenging one, especially when
Yes.
it's a little bit a hilly kind of thing which is outside of the region. So doing that thing, even we cannot put a borewell over there so that we can able to take it out and do things. And so how we can able to cater this type of challenges? That's just a thing. So, because drip one is the way that you can conserve the water and you can able to make
Yes.
use of these things. Apart from that, yeah,
Mm.
any other thing you suggest?
If it is a hilly area, then you can go for the check dams so that the monsoon water can be restored in those check dams, and it will be easy for you to water the plant in the summer season also. We have to study the area, particular area, then we can say that. But if it is a hilly area, it is slopes are there. If the slopes are there, so one can
Mhm.
study and maintain the check dams over there.
Yeah, but hardly because what I believe that after a few, you can say few days of in a scorching summer, there is hardly any water to be left even in that
Ha,
region.
that
So
is
that
true.
may be the
Then
very
you have to
challenging.
carry the water and yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. So it's a lots of effort, even resources and people just to make it. If it's been
Yes.
done with the voluntary, then it's perfectly okay. But if it is not done, it's a very challenge to survive for all that is. You just have to doing this thing. Yeah,
Yes.
ma'am. Sure. Thank you.
I think someone has put one question. Kaustub?
Ma'am, we have a question. Kaustubh is
Hmm.
asking which vegetable plants can we plant in gallery which are sturdy and won't attract much of insects.
We can grow anything actually. We can grow the mirchi, tomato, okra or the bhendi. And insects, they are actually attracted because if any, what you can say, waste food or waste material is there, plant itself doesn't attract many of the insect. You know, the insects which are present on that particular plant are mostly friendly insects, so no plant will want to have any other nuisance insect in them. So if you are growing your own vegetable garden, then go for this leafy vegetable first, because they are easy to survive also, you can harvest them easily. So first go for the leafy vegetable like spinach or the methi. The seeds are already available in market. In any nursery you can able to buy the seeds of these leafy vegetables, or you can just have buy them from the bazaar and start planting them. Coriander is very easy to grow. If you have a fruiting the vegetables, if you want fruiting vegetable, tomato, bhendi, these are the easy growing plants. Climbers, if you have a place, then go for this bottle gourd or the bitter gourd plants. They are very easy to grow. If you have a window grill, you can uh, give them a space to climb on your window grill. And bitter gourd is a very easy plant which flowers and fruits in this particular season. So you can start with them, and then you can go for the harder plants. Any other questions?
No, ma'am, nothing else. Kaustubh is saying thank you.
Ma'am, I do have one question.
Yes.
Last time when you visited this site, you remember that we have spotted Leah species at our site,
Yes. Yes.
which are,
Taloja.
no, no,
Hmm.
SGNP site, when we are
Ha.
doing our
Yeah.
plant
Mulund.
survey.
Yeah. Ha.
Huh. So those plants are basically insect attracting plants. No? Means we have
Yes.
observed a number of insects over there. So it
Yes.
is considered in monsoon flora, but
Hmm.
can we, what can say, plant that particular plant the whole year at our site? Means
If you are
something in
watering
between.
it, if you are watering it, it
Uh,
will, the vegetative condition will remain throughout the year.
okay. So
Yeah.
means that means just the flowers will be there up till the monsoon
Only
period.
in the monsoon season. Flowering and fruiting will be only in the monsoon season. But
Okay.
after that also, if you are watering it, then the leaves, the plant will stay in a vegetative state, that is in a leafy form throughout the year.
Okay.
But the watering has to be very, I mean, continuous watering should be there.
Okay. Okay. Uh, so
Actually, it
if
is
we have to,
annual, so it will grow once only. But if you are watering it from the outside, from uh, for a particular purpose, and continuous watering in there, then the leafy stage will be there.
okay. What if we have to grow it in the nursery?
You have to collect the seeds and make saplings from them.
Actually, we do try to collect the seeds now, but
Hmm.
what problem we encountered that the seeds were spongy enough, means they were not hard. Uh,
Hmm.
so
You might
how?
have collected them early.
No, I tried after some time also. Means
Okay.
once they become black enough, no. After
Hmm.
that also I tried collecting them, but they were the same. Either they used to get dried off
Okay.
or they used to remain spongy, but not in
Acha.
the condition where we can collect and what means to plant them in the nursery bed.
That is the many time it is the problem with the wild flora, that is it is very hard to multiply it, and that's why we normally do the tissue culture techniques. We
Okay.
normally follow the tissue culture technique.
I also got to know that from the caretakers that if we do collect the stem tubers of this plant, uh,
Multiply them.
we
Yes.
can multiply them. So this is
Yes.
also another way, na? We can.
Yes, yes. Yeah, but you have to keep check on that particular plant. You have to observe the whole branches and the plant to take the stem tubers.
Oh,
Yeah,
But
that's
try
a
to
bit
multiply
challenging.
them because that's a very beautiful plant also.
mm.
Mm.
So Amindra sir, what you were saying?
Yeah, actually, I'm telling you that planting one time and just continuing it for a longer time, that seems to be a many times it's a challenge. So one time
Yeah,
with that
it's
enthusiastically, you do it, yeah, then
because
continuing
the
it for a longer time.
yeah
Yeah,
because that particular plant, the Leah plant, is meant for the monsoon season, so it requires a lot of water. And during the summer season, when water scarcity is there, you have to water it continuously so that the leafy conditions will stay. See, for each and every season, different flora is already there, and depend on that flora, the fauna changes. So, if the Leah plant is there in a summer season, the same fauna will not come in the summer season. It will just grow as a plant. I hope you are getting my point.
yeah, ma'am, but
Ma'am,
it will survive, right? That is more
It will
important,
survive.
right?
It will survive. Yes, that is important. It will survive.
Yes, Ray,
we
you were
have
asking
one.
something.
Uh, no, we have one another question from Kaustubh.
Hmm.
He is asking that do we need to buy bonsai plant, which are usually large plants, or trees like papaya or lime, or will naturally become bonsai due to less space?
We don't have to buy a ready-made bonsai plant. Bonsai is a technique to convert a plant into a bonsai. Bonsai itself means a small plant, but which covers all the uh, life forms. A bonsai plant will flower, will fruit also. So a lime plant, which is in a sapling condition, छोटा जो sapling होता है लाइम का, वो लेके पर्टिकुलर पॉट में उसे रखना होता है, and you have to follow a particular technique to grow that plant, then it will become a bonsai. So that bonsai techniques are there. You have to cut those branches, you have to tie the roots properly. Don't allow that plant to grow in a huge size, but at the same time it should be so healthy that it will flower and fruit on its own. So that technique is what make a plant into a bonsai. So you have to check for the fertilizers, you have to check for the root growers and the cutting of that particular species. So then it will become a bonsai. So any plant sapling can be converted into a bonsai plant.
Ma'am, can you drop your email ID in the message box because one of
Yes.
our participants has asked for it.
Yes.
So thank you so much, ma'am, for such a wonderful session. It was really grateful to learn about so much flora which is found in the Ambivli Biodiversity Park. And particularly, being the project officer, also I was not having so much idea the what all species are being found there.
No, there
But
are much
now,
more species than this, but it's very difficult to cover all the species in one
right,
slide show, which is only for 45 minutes.
right.
So if you are going there, then I think for at least 1.5 hours, I can able to explain you everything.
True. So we'll like to request all the participants that you can also register for our upcoming events. There are many such webinars on birds, then insects, herpetofauna. So you will get to know more about what types of species are being found in the Ambivli Biodiversity Park. So you will get all the details on our website, so you can go there and register yourself. Uh, so anyone has some more questions, or else we can end the session.
No
Uh,
questions. I think we
yeah,
can end the session.
okay. So thank you so much,
Thank
everyone.
you so much for inviting me, and it was a great to interact with all these plant lovers.
It was our pleasure to learn about so much things. Thank you so much.
And thank you,
Thank,
everyone.
thank you so
Thank you,
much.
ma'am.
Good
Yeah.
day.